Go. So welcome everybody to the secondary school meeting, whether you're able to join us live or you're watching this back yourselves. We're just going to take this opportunity to go through the process of what happens when your child gets to the point where you need to be thinking about their next stage of their learning journey for them transitioning into secondary school. One of the reasons we do this meeting in this way is because there's no automatic sort of feeder schools or where everybody goes. There's actually options that you have available to you for where your child moves on to. And some of them have very sort of strict entrance criteria that you need to be aware of, and certain dates that you also need to be aware of. So we're going to cover all of that in the presentation. I'm going to cover how you can apply, how that works. I'm also going to cover how you can look at various schools and glean as much information as you can about them. So you should be able to see the screen share at the moment. Here we go. First of all, I'm going to concentrate on the schools in the immediate area. And on my screen, I've split them into two boxes, a light grey and a dark grey. The schools in the light grey on the left, we've got Futures Academy Watford, which used to be Francis Coombe, which is the closest secondary school to Alban Wood, just round the corner, to which many of our students have gone on to. The Grange Academy, they've also just changed their name. They used to be Bushy Academy, and they are in Bushy. Westfield Academy over in West Watford. St Michael's Catholic High School, again, fairly close. St Joan of Arc Catholic School, which is in Rickmansworth. The Reach Free School, which is also in Rickmansworth and Mill End, on the border with Maple Cross. A little bit further away, that one for our pupils. Bushy Meads in Bushy, and Marlborough, because it's on the edge of our side of St Albans, and we have known some pupils go to them as well. And then in the darker grey box here, there's another 7 schools. The Watford Boys and Grammar School, Central Watford. Queen's School, which is in Bushy. Rickmansworth, as per the name, is at the top of Croxley Green, Rickmansworth. Parmiters, another very local school to which we have many of our students going to, just the other side of Futures Academy. St Clement Danes, again, a little bit further for our pupils to go to from Alban Wood. It's on the border with Buckinghamshire, on the edge of Three Rivers in sort of Chorley Wood. And Croxley Danes, which is a newer school, which is actually at the bottom of Croxley Green, Baldwins Lane area. Again, that's actually not too bad for children to get to. The reason I've split them into two boxes is because this darker grey area of 7 schools, these schools are all part of what's called the South West Hertfordshire Consortium. And that's important to know because it means they are all selective in nature and have a selection criteria. I'm going to cover that a little bit later, but it does mean if you want to go to those schools, there might be some additional steps that you have to take and additional application forms, as well as the Hertfordshire standard application form for all the schools. Let's move on. In terms of thinking about where your child may be best to go to, you might have had older siblings who've already moved on, so you know a little bit, or you might know friends that you can talk to who've had their own children go to various schools, so you can talk to them. The other thing to do is obviously visit them. This year was very difficult because of the coronavirus, but what the schools did was they managed to do virtual tours. But we're hoping that those open evenings and day visits will become available again. They start in September and they're all timetabled and they're all in the school's diaries, and they start in September and go into October. It's a very short amount of time to visit quite a few places if you want, but it's the best way of actually going and visiting those schools. That information about those visits gets produced by Hertfordshire County Council. It gets sent to us as a school in about early July, and then we send that out to certainly all Year 5 parents, particularly for the coming year. But if there are Year 4 parents interested, then just let us know and we can let you have those dates as well. So you want to find out about them, because the sort of things you might be looking at is, have any schools got any particular languages or subjects that you especially would like your child to do? Because different schools can have some variations. What is it they offer? Are they a specialist school for science or PE provision or modern foreign languages? Because some schools do. And they're all slightly different. So you do need to do your preparation in terms of actually visiting them. It's the best thing you can do. They will put all of that information on the Hertfordshire local authority website, and this is the link here. These slides will come out to you, so you don't need to be taking this information down. The other best thing you can do is visit the secondary school websites. This is just a selection that I'm showing you here of the secondary schools and their websites. Websites now for schools are a real way of a school marketing itself to its own students, its own parents, but also to prospective parents and prospective pupils. So they really will have lots of information on there. And the website will also give you a flavour and a feel for the ethos and the values of the school by actually, what does their website look like? What is the information showing? What am I picking up from it? What vibe are you getting from it? So I can't stress enough to actually visit the website and begin to think, oh yeah, this looks like a school I can relate to and I'm looking at as well. The other reason for visiting them, and what I'm actually going to do is actually go to a screenshot here. One time, I just need to pull it up. Is actually go to one of the school websites and show you. I've just chosen. This is just one of the schools in the local area. This is Rickmansworth. Because what you're looking for is you want to try and tease out exactly around admissions what information is the school sharing with you, and hopefully they're sharing lots of useful information as much as you possibly can. So if I go to their school admissions general page, you're hoping you will find this on all the schools' websites. This one's giving you a little background to the school, but it's also saying from, and you are thinking, if you're year 5 currently, you are thinking about your child starting in 2022. So you'd hope it's got its up-to-date information about the 2022 intake. So here it's saying they will be admitting 240 children. What that really means, it's just about 8 forms of entry of 30 children in a class. So if you think about at Alban Wood, we have 1 year 6 of 30 children. It's a bit like saying their entry year will be taking 8 of those classes. What it's then saying is out of those 240 children, 84 of those children will be selected according to music aptitude and academic ability. And that's because there is a selective nature to this school, because it's one of the schools, one of the 7 schools in that dark grey area box, which has a selective nature to it. You can then go, well, let's actually, can we find out more information? We can click on their secondary transfer 2022-23, and it talks you through what you've got to do. You must complete the Hertfordshire County Council form. I will come on to that. But you've also got to complete a supplementary information form for the school itself. And that is just about the case for every school in the dark area box, but also some of the schools in the light grey, they may also want you to fill out this. And again, you will only find that out from the actual individual schools themselves. It lets you know what their admissions policy is for year 7 entry for September 22. Now, the reason I can't let you know what this is for every school is because they can change them from 1 year to the next. And there's lots of schools in our areas, and I would never want to give the actual wrong information out. So what you need to do is to actually go and have a look at what are the admission arrangements for any particular school you are interested in. So if you were interested in Rickmansworth, you'd want to make sure you understand what their admission arrangements are. And again, I can go and click on them and it's going to bring me up. It's a little detailed. I've had a look at this. It is a little bit wordy, but it does tell you what I mean is because what you're looking for is what are the oversubscription criteria. In other words, the rules for the priority list of who is going to get a place if there are more than 240 children apply for that school. I can guarantee there will be more than 240 children apply. There will be in the upper hundreds, if not thousands, of children who will potentially apply, and they will rank those children in order of this oversubscription criteria and where you fit against it. It goes into more information in the policy about what those criteria are, how many get in under certain criteria. So you can understand that in criteria 3, there's 10% on a little bit of nearness to your permanent home. Is it your closest school? But it also does come back to a distance criteria at the end as well. What some schools will do, and I noticed this one did when I go further down to the end, I'm sure it's the end of this document. I know it's quite a lot. It's on another one of their pages. I can go back. It's on another page. It talks about how many children got in on certain criteria in their last sort of few years, which is really useful. I'm going to come on to that. It talks again about the Southwest Hearts Consortium. This is an organisation set up to manage the entrance test for academic ability and music ability, and any other aptitude tests like PE for Queen's School, which has a PE ability test as well. They do them in a common way for all the schools. And it talks about that there. So it's about going and finding out what can you find out about what they're saying. And it's got lots of information, and it's the best thing you can go and do is have a look at the admission pages that are there for you. So this was just one particular one I chose. It's obviously got some frequently asked questions, etc. And obviously that's just looking at admissions. What you'd want to do is have a little look at actually what does the whole flavour of their website look like. You know, is it got photographs of what children are doing? What's the ethos of what it's saying? So again, I just want to stress, I can't stress more needing to actually look at these pages, digest the information it's setting and it's laying out for you. Try and not miss anything, and you will find the information is all there for you. I'm going to come back to the presentation. Could have chosen any of the schools that are there, but that was just one of them. But it's about saying there is a part you've got to play in trying to source and find out as much information as you can yourselves. We are here to help, and if you get stuck or you're not quite sure, you can't find the information you'd like, do get in touch with us. You've got myself you can get in touch with, Mrs. Pinder. She's had experience of quite a few years now of secondary school transfer, and if it's anything particularly around year 6 and your own child, then there's Miss Beattie. They're both on this call, so they're listening to this as well anyway. So coming on to, I've mentioned the Southwest Hearts Consortium. This is their website address. This is just a screenshot of their homepage at the moment. The key thing is, if you're interested in those 7 schools, and you know that actually therefore you've got to let them know, and you have to register on their website, the Southwest Hearts Consortium Schools website. Registration is open now, and you've got until a date, I think in June, it's on my last page of the slides, to actually register. So it's really important. So if you know one of those schools, it could be Parmiters, it could be Queen's, they're both quite close to us, or it could be Croxley Danes, or it could be Rickmansworth. If you're considering those schools, you need to register, because actually you might be wanting your child to sit the ability test, or it might be a music test, or it might be all of them, or a PE test for Queen's as well. You have to register on this website as well as completing the Hertfordshire application form. But the registration on this website is now, where you don't have to complete your actual application form until the autumn term, September, October. The schools that are in the South West Arts Consortium all have selective characteristics. I've mentioned it. They all have different percentages for different characteristics. So for an example, Queen's School allow 35% of their Year 7 entry of places on academic merit and 5% on sport. Rickmansworth have 25% of places on academic merit. Then you'll get further complications where things like the Boys and the Girls Grammar School have 25% of places on academic merit, but then they split that according to priority postcode areas. So it gets even more complicated. So you need to actually have a look, because it's what is your chance of your child getting into those schools according to the oversubscription criteria. And that is something you really do have to bear in mind. All schools, however, do have distance as an oversubscription measure, as well as siblings, as well as some other rules to do with SEN or looked after children, children of staff, all of those things, base characteristics, depending upon the school, they have those different measures. Again, we can't know every school's oversubscription criteria inside out every year, because some of those schools change them. They don't directly tell us. They just, like any other school, they just publish it. It goes onto their websites. It forms part of their policy. That's where you find it out. What you do have is you ultimately, for your application through Hertfordshire County Council, you have 4 choices. 4 choices of secondary school. When you've got your 4 choices, you then have to put them in your order of preference. What would be your first choice for your child, your second choice if you got it, your third choice? And that order of preference is really important, because you will be allocated the highest one first if you qualify for more than one of your 4 choices. So out of your 4 choices, if actually when it all went into the computer program and it came out that you met the criteria for, say, 2 or 3 of the schools, the computer would automatically give you your first preference. So it is important that you think about how you order your preferences. A myth that's out there is that schools themselves do not know the order of preference. They won't know whether you put the school you might be allocated at, whether that was the first choice or whether it was your 4th choice. They do not know that. The only people that know that are Hertfordshire County Council. Right, in terms of how you think about them, I always say try and put at least one school that you are very confident of getting a place at for your child. Now, this can sometimes mean it's a school that doesn't have any selective criteria, because when you think about it, any school that has selective criteria, if it's for a test, it's on a test on Saturday in September in an unfamiliar secondary school with thousands of other children, very daunting. Your child might not perform to the best of their ability. The fact that they've got to sit a music test or they've got to do a PE test. And we all know children might be unwell, they might not be feeling great, they might not do their best. So there's a lot of pressure if all you're thinking of is schools that have got a selective nature to them. So I would always suggest to put one school that doesn't have a selective nature, but you've still got to bear in mind what's its distance criteria. Are you going to get in on distance? Is it a sibling you're going to get in on? What's the other criteria that you think you will be awarded that school? As this second bullet point says, if you don't qualify for any of your 4 choices, you will be allocated a place at the nearest school that has spaces after all applications have been processed. Now, this might not necessarily be a school you were particularly wanting or you would consider, or it might be quite a long way away. And that's the risk of not really trying to make sure you've got one of your choices as a school that you think your child will get in. As that last bullet point says, it's probably a school that's undersubscribed, not as popular as some, and it could be quite a distance from where your child is living. In terms of where pupils from Alban Wood, at the moment, because it could still, there is often some movement between the national allocation day, which is March, and September. But at the moment, this was our allocation for our current year 6 and where they're going. So not a surprise, because we really are very close as Alban Wood to Futures Academy, that a lot of our pupils choose to go there. Very nice and local. You can walk, no transport issues, a lot of real benefits for going to a local secondary school. Equally, we therefore have quite a lot that are going to Parmiter's. Again, it's local school, not too bad to get to. It's a very well regarded school. It's one of the top schools and top performing schools in the country, not just in our area, not just in Hertfordshire, but actually in the country. And then we've got a few children going slightly further afield, split between here. So as you can see, not all the children go to the same place. They do get split between some different schools. This is some key information, particularly around the fact that if you're considering some of those selective schools that are under the South West Herts Consortium, these are the key dates that you will need. Again, don't worry about scribbling them down. We will send these slides out. But it basically says you can register now, but that registration closes on the 18th of June. And you'll be notified where your child might have to go and sit the test. Now, when you're notified about that, it doesn't necessarily mean the place they go for the test might not even be a school you've chosen. It just means that's the test venue where they might go and sit their test on the 4th of September, right at the beginning of the next academic year. And the other key dates are, you will get your scores of either your music test, PE test, or academic test on Wednesday, the 20th of October, which still gives you some time to make up your mind about your 4 preferences before the deadline of the 31st of October. That's quite important, because that might help you think about, actually, where do I think they might get? I just want to spend, I'm just going to go on to the next one. Be realistic, know your child best. It is very, very highly selective area and a high competition for the places in those selective schools. And I want to give you a little bit of a hint in terms of the selective nature of the schools. So if you were considering in our area, we might have Parmiter's, which is selective, and Queen's, which is selective. Because they're selective by nature, because Parmiter's is it's probably the hardest school to get into from a selective nature, because you have to have higher scores to get into Parmiter's because it is so popular. And the scores might be slightly lower, but you can still get into a school like Queen's or like Rickmansworth. The scores will be slightly lower. But what you've got to think is, if actually you think you've got a child who's going to perform really well and get a high score, if you put Queen's as a first choice and Parmiter's as a second choice, even though you might get a score that would qualify you for Parmiter's, you won't be awarded Parmiter's because you put Queen's as your first choice. And therefore you would get Queen's because you literally ranked it first as your first choice preference. So you've got to look at the schools that are there. What do the schools say about the sort of scores? And they all have it on their website. What do they say about the sort of scores that past children have got? What's the lowest score that somebody has got into that school? And then you can think about, well, actually, there's no point necessarily putting certain schools more preferable over others. If I was to get a really good score, I wouldn't get that school anyway because I've not ranked it as high in my preferences. So you have got to think about, if you're not sure about how to do that, please talk to either Miss Beattie, Year 6 teacher, Mrs. Pinder, or myself. Email us, get in touch with us if you're not quite sure. In terms of application, this is in September, October. This is where you would go. It's the Hertfordshire website. It clearly says apply for a secondary upper school place. That's where you click, follow all the instructions. You have to create yourself a username and password. It will let you know what you have to do, and you follow that procedure. Don't forget that if you are looking at some of those 7 schools, any of them that have got a selective nature, you will have to fill in their supply information form as well. You can request a paper copy, but it's very rare now. I can't remember the last time I knew anybody who filled in a paper copy, because most people now know we're in a digital age, and you get the definite certainty, you get email confirmation, you know it's all done correctly. Please do not be late with your application, because they are considered after everybody else. So you really must get your application in by the 31st of October this year, 2021. You'll actually find out what school you've been allocated. Is National Allocation Day is always in March 2022, around the 1st of March. That's when all children across the country find out what secondary school they've been given. The other bits I'm just going to mention at this point were I did do this for Orchard on Tuesday, and a couple of really good questions that were asked. One was about independent schools. And if you are considering the independent sector, by that, some people know that as private schools, fee-paying schools. There are quite a few in our area. And if that is something you're interested in, again, I've just been putting together a little paper that could be emailed out to you, just to let you know what are those schools and what the process for that might be. But we don't have a lot of uptake for, to be honest, any children I know from either school that do consider that as an option. But it is an option for some. And as I say, if that is for you, then do get in touch with us. The other thing that is just happening this year is, some of you might have heard of Watford UTC. UTC sort of colleges and schools were originally set up to take children in year 10 and above. But Watford UTC, which is based on Colonel Way, not too far, down just at the start of the industrial estate, but really nice premises just off Radlett Road. They are, for this year coming, are taking a year 7 intake, we believe, of about one class of 30 children. You have to go to their website itself to find out about the school, and you have to apply directly to them, not through Hertfordshire, not through the actual common entrance process for everybody else, but directly to the school. Just going to show you their website. So this is Watford UTC. For them, you need to go and click on year 7, and then it talks about a little bit about what they were doing. Obviously, at the moment, they're only showing information for the round that's just gone, so for children starting this September. It hasn't been confirmed, or I can't find any information on their website that they are definitely having another year 7 for the year you will be interested in, which will be 2022. But there is some information about what they're offering the year 7s this September. And again, the difference with it, when you look at how to apply, when you go apply for a place, is it talks about the fact that you can still have your 4 choices on the Hertfordshire application form, but you could also have Watford UTC as another choice on top of that, as like a 5th choice, completely outside of the 4 choices you've done under the Hertfordshire umbrella. As I say, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen for the admissions round we're talking about, because the information is not that clear on their website. But you might want to give them a ring if it's something you're thinking of, or we might know more information as we get to this September. And it might be that actually it does incorporate into the Hertfordshire actual official process of how they're doing it. I think that was my last slide on my presentation. It is, so I'm going to stop that share. What we're going to know is just for those that are with us, if you've got any questions, that now is a really good time. You can either put your question into the chat feature that's built into Zoom, or if you like, you can unmute yourself, and if you want, you can unmute your video, and you can actually ask the question, and I will do my best to answer anything now if anybody has got any questions. So I'll just pause, rest my voice for a bit, and see if you've got any questions. Now, it could be a sign that I've answered everything for everybody, since there's not any questions, which is always good. Don't be shy if you have got one. Feel free to ask it anonymously in the chat if you want. There might not be. What I'll say to anybody who's also watching the recording anyway at a later stage, if you still do have any questions and you didn't quite think of it now, as I say, get in touch with us. We'll do our best to answer them. But what we will do is send a copy of this presentation out along with the slides in the next few days, and then you'll be able to have it to refer to and look at. I hope it's been informational for you, and it's helped you understand a little bit more about the process of secondary transfer. So thank you very much for listening. I shall stop the recording, and you are free now to log off and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.